everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Rookie Division and the Shiruba Springs in the Winter Major Tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, visit golfclashtommy.com for more Golf Clash related content. You can get the text guides by becoming a Patreon. Then you use the link in the description down below, which is patreon.com/golfclashtommy. This tournament is going to be very interesting. By playing the hole several times already, I would say that the par 5 is going to be extremely difficult, especially with lower level clubs and playing with limited power balls, so to speak. You're gonna notice that yourself, that we're going to have holes where we might have to even lay up and try to have a wedge or a short iron from distance instead of trying to go for green in 2. And that obviously is going to take the scores down a notch, and it's going to make the scores being much, higher than normal. Also, when it comes to the holes here in this playthrough, you do have timestamps in the description down below, where you can just jump between the holes if you want to, or you watch everything, you decide yourself. I do personally think we're going to see a score that's going to be -10 or -11 as general, like a par score for people playing in Rookie, and that is only due to the par 5s, also due to not being able to dry green on the par 4s and pretty difficult par 3. So I'm very excited to present this playthrough for you, and I hope you are going to enjoy it. Make sure that you comment in the description down below if you do have any questions, and don't forget the thumbs up. Thank you so much. Let's go with hole number 1. Let's go to hole number 1. First, we're going to start with the drive, and here we're going to play on the left-hand side. There is a way to play on the on the right-hand side is what we're going to play, but there is a way to play on the left-hand side, but then you will have to use a power ball, meaning you will have to play with a power 2 or power 3 at least. So we're playing with a Marlin ball, which gives us no power extra. It's only reduced the wind a little bit, combined with giving us a little bit of side spin. Using as much top spin as possible, combined with the 2.25 side spin to the left. Maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment is the elevation for the drive. For the second shot, we're going to have very close to a minimum distance wood club here, and the Sniper or the Viper is the one that I would suggest you to play with. Obviously, if you're using a different power ball, you might come into long iron range, but as we want to play with a power 0 ball, we are going to play with the Sniper or the Viper. Use some backspin here, because you're going to notice we come in way too hot here because we're not using any backspin. Other than that, there is no elevation for the second shot, and you just play it as it is. So let's go to hole number 2, and we're going to start by playing with the backbone. So we go from the bottom part of the info box on the right hand side, backbone, and we're using 4.5 bar backspin, and you can see that I'm using 3 bar side spin. I would like us to have the ball guideline a little bit closer towards the pin, combined with using 2.5 bar side spin instead of 3. And in the end, we're playing with a Titan ball. It's not necessary. The only reason we have a Titan ball here is due to the fact that we are going into a shootout from a regular game where we played with a Titan. So we can play with a Navigator, we can play with a Marlin, we can play with a Quasar. The minimum that you do need to have at least is side spin 1, then you should be able to manage fairly well. So structure, spin first, so you then can put the ball guideline in a decent position, like that the one we have with a minor tweak, as I said, being a little bit closer, and then you adjust medium distance with a 20% over adjustment. So we're not gonna play maximum distance here, so only medium distance with a 20% over adjustment. So let's take a look at hole number 3, and we're going to start by playing with the clubs that gives us the most distance. We also need to change to a ball that gives us a lot of power. In the best of the worlds, we could reach over the rough directly, but that is only possible if we do have some sort of a tailwind there. So in the end, having some sort of tailwind would really help, and then we would go directly over the rough instead of bouncing here. Because we could play left side of the rough there and curl it a little bit into the right. It would not make any positive difference though, as we do want to be as close to the right hand side of the rough once bouncing over the rough here. 10% over adjustment is what I'm playing this one as. And you can see that we are very close to the rough line there, and that is a very important note to take, that we do need to be very close to that side. Because now we are going to play on the fairway here on the top right. And the problem we have here is that we will be having a tough time to reach to the green. I do not see, by playing this hole a couple of times now, I do not see a possibility for us to reach if we're not having an absolute superior clubs, or maybe play with a power 5 ball. So the thing that we're looking for is to get the ball as far up as possible, stay on the fairway, so we then have a short iron towards the pin. 10% over adjustment for the second shot as well. Third shot though is going to be a short iron in very close to minimum distance of our club. Here it is very important when you have lower level clubs and you do not have a fully developed ball guideline, that you make sure that you do not don't follow the ball guideline because it's not fully developed. So in the end, I follow the ball guideline here, but even though the ball guideline shows that we are going to stop by the pin, it's not going to stop by the pin, because once again, it's not fully developed. The shot here, you can see we're playing this one uphill, and every time we play uphill, we do need to reduce our adjustments. We need to play with an uphill adjustment of 10%. Close, but not really there. Hole number 3, in my opinion, is going to be an extremely difficult hole for people making even an eagle on. So have in mind that getting an eagle here on hole number 3 is going to it's going to be a massive advantage for you compared to your opponents. So, let's take a look at hole number 4, and here we're going to play from front tee, obviously, and we're going to play with a backbone. Backbone, due to its good ball guideline, good accuracy, it's just easier to handle. I'm playing with max side spin right with a side spin 2 ball. Disregard that I'm playing with a Titan, because in the end, it's not going to be a Titan that we play with in the tournament or in tour play generally. I went into shootout with a Titan, so focus on that we should be playing with a Quasar. Playing with 4.5 bar side spin to the right with somewhere between 1 to 3 bars of backspin, depending on what type of wind we are having. Now we have crosswind, obviously we need to add more backspin. Compare like in tailwind, if we do have a headwind, we need to, if so, reduce a little bit. Getting it fairly close here, and it's going to be a decent opportunity, in my opinion, getting an hole-in-one from distance. But as you can see, we do have bunkers on the right hand side there, and that's why I do feel that side spin on our ball is important, so we don't have to aim like a super duper close line when it comes to the sand there. 10% over adjustment, if that wasn't mentioned before. And once again, we see the same shot once again as I feel on the par 3s. We need to take a little bit more time to take it easy, study it, and just take a closer look. So once again, 4.5 bar side spin to the right with somewhere between 1 to 3 bars of backspin. Backbone is the club I want you to play with for its accuracy and ball guideline, and 10% over adjustment with max distance number. So let's take a look at hole number 5, and we're going to start by playing the drive with no elevation whatsoever. So, no elevation whatsoever, and I want to play with a driver that gives me a decent amount of distance, meaning I would like to have at least 225 yards of power on my driver, combined with a power 1 ball. This because then we can play in a crosswind and in a minor headwind without having any problems. Maximum distance adjustment with no elevation whatsoever, and we're using as much topspin possible on our club, which in this case is 4.5 bars. And the plan here is to get this ball to bounce on the fairway and to roll here on the other fairway, getting past, you could see the bunker and the rough on the top right corner there of the game screen. And that's what we want to get past to, so we can get to this spot. because now we get to an absolute minimum distance of our wood club, which I think is absolutely perfect if we can keep ourselves there. Obviously, when it comes to playing with a little tailwind, we would need a little bit more backspin on our club. So if you do have a sniper with at least 3 bars of backspin, that would be more preferred. Or you maybe should consider playing with the Viper there, especially if you do have a little tailwind, so you can move your target a little bit more up front instead of being just by the minimum line. But we get this one in for a nice little eagle. So nice little eagle there, 2.5 bar backspin, aim for the cup, and we do make a minimum distance with a 10% over adjustment when it comes to the elevation there for hole number 5, second shot. So let's take a look at hole number 6, and this is going to be a weird one, especially here from front tee. We want and need to play with a Titan ball here, so we need to change to that first. And then after that, we are going to find ourselves playing with a wood club most of the time. So choose and pick the big dog here, as big dog is the club that gives us the most topspin of the wood clubs that we're having. Because now the plan is to get as much distance as possible on the other fairway without obviously rolling into the rough. 10% over adjustment, and we're playing from max distance numbers with our big dog. Weird that we're playing with a wood club as our driver there. Second shot is going to be extremely difficult, and here we do need to have a club with a lot of curl to be able to get to the green, or like to be able to be close to the green, and that's going to be the big dog once again, especially here for ourselves with the setups that we're having. So max left spin, and I'm playing with 3 bars of top spin because my plan was to bounce into the rough and roll out. You can use a little bit more top spin so you get a better roll through the rough, and in the end, max curl left as much as you possible can, because now we do want to take this turn here to bounce and then to get into the rough and roll. And have in mind once again that we would like to have more more topspin if needed. Then we would get more distance and we would be having a much shorter wedge. Or you can try to go with overpower to bounce over the rough using no topspin whatsoever, which I think is going to be a little bit more difficult. Nonetheless, this par 5 is going to be extremely difficult, as it's not only just require a good drive, it also requires a very technical and perfectly executed second shot. No elevation for the second shot, and as I explained, 10% for the first shot with the big dog. Let's take a look at the first option. I'm going to give you 2 options here. First, we're going to lay up on the right hand side, which is going to be played with a quarterback in the end, and we're going to play with a navigator ball. And now first I'm trying to look around, is there a better spot? Should we maybe rough bump it out there to get to a different location? Nah, I decide to go very easy as a start. We need to have in mind that the first drive is played 20% downhill here, and we're going to play with the quarterback using, in this scenario, as you can see, 4 bars backspin and as much side spin to the right possible. And just to correct myself, I'm not changing to the navigator, but I think we should change to the navigator, as it then reduces the wind, and that especially will be easier for us for the second shot. We're just getting it over to around 240 yards, and now we're going to go for the rough bump for the second shot. And for those that do not feel comfortable with the rough bump, you will see another option coming directly after we are done here. So then you will see a more safer approach, but I strongly believe that if you do know what you're doing when it comes to adjusting your rings and adjusting for the wind, the rough bump here is going to be the absolute, with no doubt, the best possibility making an eagle here from distance. 25% over adjustment is what we do need to do here. So 25%, and then we're gonna get that one in the hole, because that one was played with 30% extra, 25%, and then you're gonna be fine. So, for the other option here on hole number 7, you can see first and foremost that we have changed a little bit in the info box on the right hand side. We have added a marlin, as I do believe that with a tailwind or with a crosswind, we can play with a marlin as to not having to spend any power 1 ball, or for that matter, power 2, power 3 ball. So play with a power 0 ball. 20% over adjustment. The elevation is the same as we would be playing the right hand side. And now we're just going to go straight down the middle using as much topspin that we possibly can. Second shot is going to be just a long iron towards the pin. And in the end, I played with the backbone. You can play with the Goliath, the B52, Grizzly. There is multiple different long irons to play with. I do feel that the backbone with a good accuracy and a good ball guideline is going to be the best. No elevation whatsoever for the second shot down here, as we are down from the hill already. Close to get it in, but you know, this is an interesting approach as well, but I would prefer the rough bump if you once again feel comfortable with your adjustment. So let's take a look at hole number 8, par 3, and I want us to play with the long iron that we feel the most comfortable with playing. This is a very difficult par 3, especially when it comes from front tee, as going up trying to rough bump, we're going to be in between clubs in many of the situations. Max left spin, which is 4.5 bars here, and I'm also using a little side spin, 1 to 1.5 bar here, but we will notice here that using backspin in this type of wind is going to be too much. We need to remove the backspin and just play without, otherwise we won't be able to reach for the pin. We are straight at the pin though, so the direction is fine. You could see that I used a little bit of curl there in the end, and that little curl was needed due to not having enough side spin with this type of wind. So listen, if you do have this type of wind, or any wind coming left to right, a katana ball would be preferred, as it has more side spin, and then you can use more side spin and then offset the ball guidelines, so it kind of compensates for the wind. If we do have a wind coming in any form right to left, a ball like the Quasar would be better, as a katana ball is more valuable, and then we spend a Quasar as we do not need more side spin than the 4.5 that we do have on that ball. Minor things to think about, but it's going to definitely help. And maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment when we're playing from front tee. So let's go to hole number 9, and we're gonna start with the drive. And here, if you do have a big topper, use it. I'm not gonna use it here because I do have it in a pretty high level for being an epic club. So I'm going to change to an extra mile instead. So big topper would be perfect due to its topspin, because we do need to get as much topspin as possible here, especially if we're going to bounce over the rough here, trying to roll as far as possible. If we do have a straight tailwind, we are going to clear the rough directly. That would obviously make the second shot become much easier. We need to aim very close to the rough line there, but give yourself at least a ring so you're not going to clip the rough. Maximum distance, it's not going to be the case here. We're going to play medium distance with a 10% over adjustment, because we are pretty far away from max distance. Bounce on the fairway, bounce over to the other fairway, and try to get the ball to roll as far as possible. For the second shot, we're going to play with the big dog, and now it becomes extremely difficult because we cannot play on the left hand side in a pretty decent way. Then we need to go with a lot of curl, and then it would honestly be better if we do have like a left to right type of wind. Now, having a right to left type of wind, the thing that I'm going to try to attempt here is to bounce on the fairway into the rough, roll out on the fairway, giving myself a very nice wedge. But I do hit a bad great right here, which, you know, it wasn't even close to perfect. And this ball is going to bounce into the rough and roll into the sand. But you could probably notice what I'm trying to do here. I hate to give you a shot like that when you go into the sand, because it doesn't really teach us more than obviously a great right is bad. But the plan there for that type of shot is to bounce on the fairway into the rough, roll out, and give ourselves a wedge. Because we need to have in mind that the par 5s of the Shiruba Springs is extremely difficult, and we will have to be very technical. We'll have to play with overpower to get our ball as close as possible, because we can't really rely on to just lay up, because we don't really have the clubs that has a decent ball guideline. But key things here. First, distance. We do need distance for the second shot. Very, very, very important. Also, we do need topspin for the drive. That's why I said the big topper would be a very good suggestion there. A power 3 ball, if you can play power 4 or power 5 ball, you can do that. That would obviously help. 10% over adjustment for the drive, and then 10% over adjustment for the second shot as well. Once again, tough par 5, and we need to at least do our very, very best to get there, and that means that we're going to have to risk getting into the bunker, into the rough, a little bit more than on other courses. So everyone, thank you so much for watching this playthrough for Rookie Division and the Shiruba Springs and the Winter Major Tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and this tournament is going to be difficult, especially the par 5s, and it's going to be super interesting to see what we can do here. Don't forget to comment with what you think is going to be the winning score in your division. And get the text guides by being a subscriber to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. You do have the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck in your Golf Clash game.